St. Louis at America West Arena. Yes, they are on the ice. The boys of winter are back. The Blues and Coyotes kick off the new campaign here tonight on Fox Sports Net. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Blues Faceoff. My name is Dan McLaughlin. Great to have you along for another season of St. Louis Blues hockey. What a season it was a year ago as the Blues racked up a franchise record in points, 114, and in wins with 51, but they bowed out in the first round of the playoffs. So what do they do this offseason? They've added free agents and also youngsters to the lineup. We'll talk about that later in the show. One guy who is missing, though, tonight as we kick off the show is a great player for St. Louis, and that is Michael Handzus. He is out with an abdominal strain, could be back by the end of next week. It says he's out indefinitely, but could be back before you know it. He has played in the preseason and had 5 points and was one of the better players for the St. Louis Blues. Tonight's opponent is the Phoenix Coyotes, a team that's in flux, a team with new ownership led by Wayne Gretzky by the end of this calendar year. Not yet, though. They hope to have a new goaltender, hope to also have some new contracts for some of their bigger stars. Let's take a look at the Central Division, also the Pacific Division, and see where these two teams wound up a year ago. First of all, for the St. Louis Blues, they led the league overall 114 points. Detroit finished with 108. It was a tight race down to the wire. Chicago and Nashville did not make the playoffs. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, Dallas wound up being the eventual runners-up in the Stanley Cup Finals. Los Angeles made the playoffs, as well as Phoenix and San Jose. San Jose was the final team in there. They were the 8th and final seed in the Western Conference. Well, we had mentioned that the Blues have a bunch of new faces in the lineup here tonight. Also some old faces led by Chris Pronger and Al MacInnis. Let's take a look at our starting lineups. It's brought to you by Randy Blunt, Leakin Mercury. Chris Pronger, the mainstay, number 44, the captain of the Blues, in there, as well as Al MacInnis. Hesht, Turgeon, and Young on the top line. Bartechko, Nagy, and Dimitra. Drake, Reasoner, Mayers, Nash, Conroy, and Eastwood, the 4 lines tonight for St. Louis. Well, a year ago, it ended in disappointment for St. Louis. The expectations were so high for the St. Louis Blues, the reason why, and really it should have been expected by the fans that the Blues would advance past the first round and maybe even win the Stanley Cup. The reason why is because it's simple. They finished first overall in the National Hockey League during the regular season. But as we have come to know in 30-plus years of St. Louis Blues hockey, it doesn't matter where you finish in the regular season. It's how you do it in the playoffs. And a year ago, the Blues did not do it against the San Jose Sharks. They lost in 7 games. Let's show you some of the highlights from game number 7 at a sold-out Kiel Center. It would be an odd series, really, for St. Louis and for Roman Turek. Just odd goals, out bounces. Remember, Mark Bergevin threw a puck into his own net. Well, in that goal by Ronnie Stern, San Jose had taken an early 1-0 lead. But here's probably the oddest goal of the series. At center ice before the first period would end, just seconds left, Olin Nolan would score, beating Roman Turek. And all of a sudden, San Jose had a commanding 2-0 lead after 1 period of play. In the second period, though, they would add to that. A melee in front here. The defensive core of the Blues did not do a good job clearing the puck. This made it 3-0 at home. The Boo Birds were out, and a shocker was just about to take place in front of those home fans at the Kiel Center. That goal right there made it 3-0, Sharks on top. Olin Nolan had a terrific series. He was playing on both ends of the ice, but he couldn't stop this one here. Pronger hits the post. It comes back out. They keep at it. Scott Young would finally get a chance at it to whack it in. He would score the goal. That made it 3-1. San Jose would win it, and they would win it in 7 games. 4 games to 3, and disappointing for the St. Louis Blues, but yet they build upon that for this year. They are the odds-on favorite, and if you're into betting, you're into Las Vegas, the Vegas odds makers say the St. Louis Blues this year will win the Stanley Cup. Hey, folks, a great show in store for you here tonight on Fox Sports Net. Here's a look at what's on tap in this edition of Blues Face-Off, our first edition of 2000. Tonight we go one-on-one with the captain of the St. Louis Blues. He'd like to stay a Blue after this season. Tonight we hear from Chris Pronger. Also, we'll take a look at the top plays from a year ago. Pierre Turgeon, goal number 400. You'll hear that. Also, Joe Quenneville previews the season tonight with us here on Fox Sports Net. So a great show in store for you here on Fox Sports Net, first edition of Blues Face-Off. There's a new face of the St. Louis Blues. Dallas Drake, Sean Hill, they're here. Also Al MacInnis, Blues Coyotes, coming up in a moment. The best defenseman, Chris Pronger, is in there tonight here at America West Arena. We welcome you back to Blues Faceoff. Dan McLaughlin with you. The new color analyst on our telecast here on Fox Sports Net, as well as WP11, is Bernie Federko. He is high atop America West Arena and part of our broadcast team this season. Bernie, welcome aboard. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, Danny. Nice to be here.
Let's talk about, in our analyst segment, two new faces, Dallas Drake and Sean Hill. Bernie?
Well, this was two great acquisitions that I see from the start of this season. There's no question that Dallas Drake adds some grit. Sean Hill adds some grit. They're both in their 30s. They both have been around, and it's very important. Where Dallas Drake is a rock'em sock'em hockey player. He scored 15 goals last year for Phoenix. He's a guy that's going to go to the net. He's going to go to hard, and that's something that maybe the Blues lacked in the playoffs, was that extra grit. And Dallas Drake is not only going to add the grit, but he's going to get some goals. As far as Sean Hill, 13 goals last year for Carolina. The Blues were looking for another defenseman to take some onus and some of the pressure off both Chris Pronger and Al McInnes. And there's no question that Sean Hill is going to create a lot of help offensively, and he's really going to be another anchor back there on defense.
The Blues brought in Dwayne Rollison as a possible backup to Roman Turek, who was just outstanding a year ago. Instead, it's Brent Johnson. Do you like that move, Bernie?
I really do. You know, the Blues need to start bringing some of their young players, the players that they've drafted in. Brent Johnson has been up before. He handles the puck very well. That's what I like about Brent Johnson. He's another big kid like Roman Turek is. He's tall. He's a stand-up goaltender. When he butterflies, he covers an awful lot of net. So it's very important that the Blues give Brent Johnson some playing time. I think the onus is going to be still on Roman Turek. He's going to play the majority of the games, but I'm not afraid to throw a youngster like Brent Johnson into the lineup.
One name that you and Ken will be talking an awful lot about tonight is on the other side for the Phoenix Coyotes, their big superstar, and that's Keith Tkachuk.
Well, Keith Tkachuk had a bad year last year, 22 goals. He missed 32 games, and he's the heart and soul of this hockey club here in Phoenix. He had a lot of problem with management. Supposedly, the new ownership with Gretzky and Elman is going to come in. He's not fond of what happened last year, but this guy is probably the best power forward in the National Hockey League when he gets going. He scored 50 goals a couple of times. He has said this year that he is back. He's solid. He's got rid of his injuries. He had surgery on his knee and his ankle during the offseason. He's ready to go, and we'll see right from the start if he's going to really be a pain in the butt for everybody on this team.
A pain in the butt, huh, Bernie?
That's exactly it. That's what he said he's going to do. We'll see what he does and how he starts this game.
I understand. 114 points for the Blues a year ago, 51 wins, both franchise records. What can the Blues possibly do for an encore this season, Bernie?
Well, they're bringing in some extra players. When there's the young players, we're going to see Salvador, we're going to see a Van Ryan, Danny. So I think it's going to take a little while for the Blues to get back to where they want to be. Nagy, with the injury to Michael Handzus, that certainly hurts this club right now. But Joel Quenneville knows what this team has to do. They won the President's Trophy. I don't think there's that pressure on them that they have to repeat. Certainly they'd like to repeat. They'd like to win every game. But it's very important that they just get back to normal and get things going and have another great year.
All right, Bernie, thank you very much. Great to have you with us this season on Fox Sports Net and also Blues Faceoff. When we come back, we'll talk it over with Chris Pronger. That's Pierre Turgeon. He's in the lineup tonight, the #1 center for the St. Louis Blues. Your home source. Well, both teams are on the ice, getting set, getting warmed up. It's the kickoff to the 2000 campaign. And a man that's in the lineup again for the St. Louis Blues is Chris Pronger. Still only 25 years of age. Recently, we went one-on-one with the St. Louis Blues captain. The road to stardom in St. Louis for Pronger was a tough one. He collapsed on the ice during the playoffs 2 years ago. And his initial seasons were met with unreached expectations, boos, and the hounding of then-former coach Mike Keenan. Although free agency is near, Pronger would love nothing better than to finish his career wearing the blue note.
I think you look back at some of the guys, the Borks, the Yzermans, players that have been around an organization for a long time, and the type of respect that they command. It's something different to see a player play with a team that long and not really move organizations too much. And I got here when I was 20, so it'd be nice to finish here, but as I said, we'll have to wait and see.
We were done at the end of April, and we've had 5 months to try to work something out. If you can't do it in 5 months, and we'll try next year. But you know, I don't want to be talking to him every day about what are they offering today. It's I want to concentrate on hockey and helping this team win.
That was Chris Pronger just days ago discussing his contract status. He's a restricted free agent after the year, and now he's not discussing or wanting to deal with the talk of his contract. He doesn't want it to be a distraction, but inevitably it will be.
I've got 1 year left, and the ball's kind of in management's court. I'll be a Group 2 restricted free agent as of July 1st, 2001, and we'll go from there. But we'll have to wait and see what happens.
The fans, of course, want to see Pronger stay, and so does Chris.
I would like to, but again, that's up to the team, and if they feel that's the direction they want the team to go in. But until that time, I'm going to keep my options open and use the little power that I do have.
He'll let her go. He scores a power play goal. Pronger is coming off a career year. He not only won the Hart Trophy as the league MVP, but he was also tabbed the league's best defenseman.
From the St. Louis Blues, Chris Pronger.
So what will he do for an encore this season?
The encore would be the Stanley Cup. I think it's always nice, as I said, I think when I won them, that you win those individual awards, but the ultimate is the team goal, and that's the Stanley Cup, and I would obviously trade both those awards to get that Stanley Cup, because it's something that can elude a lot of great players in the game, and we've got a chance with the team that we have to get there, so hopefully we can do that this year.
The individual awards have been great, but they still don't measure up to the ultimate prize.
If you've won a championship, people look at you in a different light, and even if you haven't won those individual awards, you're looked at as a winner and a champion, and I think that's something that every player wants to be, and hopefully that's going to be this year for us. But you can just see it in a lot of people's faces when you talk to them, and then you have somebody who's come up and you see somebody talking to a guy like Gretzky or Messi or somebody like that who's won so many Stanley Cups. The way they talk to them is a little bit different than the way they talk to you.
After the disaster in the first round of last year's playoffs, Pronger can sense a hungrier team.
The biggest test is the second season, that's the playoffs, and we have to be prepared. We've got guys that hadn't had that playoff experience now, know what it's like and know what it's going to take. And if we have 4 series the way the San Jose series was, it'll be difficult. But nothing comes easy here to those who want it.
The captain has come full circle with the St. Louis Blues. He's gone from pariah, the man who was traded for Brendan Shanahan, to the man who would never be traded away now. From booze to league MVP. It's been a wild ride for number 44.
I think anytime you can overcome things like that, it makes you a better person and a better player. And having gone through those struggles earlier on, I know where I was and where I am now, and how it's kind of developed my game, and also the mental aspect that goes along with becoming a better player.
And a fan favorite for the St. Louis Blues. Folks, make no mistake about it. Chris Pronger will be a St. Louis Blue for many years after this season, even though he is a restricted free agent. When we come back, Plays of the Year, and we preview the year with Coach Q. Our first edition of Blues Faceoff here on Fox Sports Net from America West Arena. We welcome you back as we take you now to the top plays of a year ago. It was such a great season for the Blues. Let's relive some of those great moments. big reason for those great moments a year ago can be found behind the Blues bench. Joel Quenneville now enters his 5th season in St. Louis. It's been quite a ride already for Coach Q. Tonight we preview the season with Joel Quenneville.
Good play, Nasher. Pick up!
Joel Quenneville is putting together quite a resume as a head coach in the NHL.
Move. That's the way to move the puck quick.
Already, he's one of the best coaches in terms of wins the Blues have ever seen. He's quiet yet assertive. He commands respect, and he always seems to get the most out of his teams.
The puck ahead of us here, boys.
I think everybody feels that Joel's going to be someday probably talked about as one of the better coaches in the league. I think he is looked at now as a young, up-and-coming coach that's established himself, and I think people feel like he's even going to get nothing but better.
Good support, Pat. Keep going, Al.
The Jack Adams Award goes to Joel Quenneville, St. Louis. Very proud to receive this and would like to thank the NHL Broadcasters Association for this honor.
It's nice when you look back over time, some of the names that are on that trophy that you get to say, I was on the same trophy with Scotty Bowman and Toe Blake, some of the greats of all time. But that was reflective of what we accomplished as a team.
What they accomplished was the Blues' greatest regular season ever, but they bowed out in the first round of the playoffs, and that makes this year's squad hungrier than ever. Training camp started with aggressive play, and it has cost the Blues.
Bergie got hurt first day at camp, broke his thumb. Probably wouldn't want to say needless fight. I think he did what he had to do, and those things happen, and that might have taken away from some of the intensity, knowing that one guy's down early. We don't want to lose anybody else with 2D and Reardon being out. So I think the competitiveness was okay. But I think as we progress here, we're starting to see the camp pick up and the intensity, particularly in the games, start to show.
This camp was unlike any other for Joel Quenneville. He finally has depth.
I think we're deeper in a lot of areas. You're seeing everybody competing not only for the ice time, but to play some nights. And I think we're going to be 13, 14 deep that all probably think they can play. Our blue line remains to be seen who the candidates are, but we feel like the guys that are there are going to make us better.
One of those players is free agent acquisition Sean Hill.
Hill, particularly on the blue line, is certainly somebody we're looking forward to stabilize the defense area. I think we've been kind of over the last 3 years been looking for somebody that can maybe cut down the quality minutes that Al and Chris play. At the same time, he's a very useful defenseman. He play in all situations, and that's going to be nice for us to have the right shot, too.
The Blues also added gritty veteran Dallas Drake.
We know playing against him in Phoenix. He's not a fun guy to play against. He's an intense player. He gets in on forechecks, got some speed, got some feistiness, can make plays, and with some of our forwards and the skilled players around him, we hope that he can score, too.
Even with the additions of Drake and Hill, the Blues will have their hands full in the very talented Western Conference.
The Western Conference is tough. I mean, we look across the board, and there's no easy games anymore. And not that there was. We do have a couple of new teams this year that we really don't know much about at this stage. But the teams that you still got to think Dallas is going to be as good as they've ever been. Their defense, those top four, the goaltender, Medano, Hawley, Neuendijk, and they got some top forwards. They can beat anybody on any night. So they're going to be a top team. Colorado's good. And Detroit has still got all the, you look at their personnel, maybe on paper the best in the business. And they know how to win. And but we're seeing probably LA is going to be better. Anaheim. There's like 3 or 4 teams that didn't make the playoffs last year that probably think they're going to get in this year. And so that's going to make for a long season for everybody, and it's going to be quite a fight.
A fight the Blues hope will take them to the Stanley Cup. Our thanks to Joel Quenneville. Should be an outstanding season, and yes, it starts here tonight in the Valley of the Sun for these crazy fans here in Phoenix. More coming up from America West Arena in just a moment here in Phoenix, Arizona. What can the Blues do to get past the first round? They didn't do it a year ago, had the best team during the regular season. We'll have another top team here in 2000. It all starts tonight. Should be a lot of fun. Blues hockey tonight on the air. Fox Sports Net. It's coming up next with Ken and Bernie.